physical nourishment for the body through foods. You're talking about nourishment for the soul through beauty, through works of art, those kinds of things. One of the things that struck me over the years, just kind of reading through the scriptures, has been just how central, agriculture was, obviously to the culture, but to the parables too. There's so much, and I've always sort of lamented my great ignorance around that whole world, because I know that if you know the details of what that stuff means, then the parables will come to life in an even deeper way. The meaning will come to life. And so again, when I look at what you do and the vision that you have, from my perspective, I look at that and I say that you are an artist in what you do, truly. And to create anything, to nurture anything, is sort of living within a reflection of being made in the image of God. So is there something maybe you could open up about that side of things? You were saying like
Well, I've never really thought of it as art before. I mean, you're the first one who's given it to me from that perspective, but I can see what you're saying and where you're going with that. I've often told folks, I've been asked hundreds and hundreds of times, how do you stay healthy? What are the keys, really the keys to raising a healthy family? And there's three things that are very, very important. One of those is food. Obviously, food, it's the building blocks for our bodies. But just as important is the spiritual aspect. So the emotion of that we live in, are we, is it positive? Is it full of beauty, or is it ugly?
Right. Yeah.
And that reflects on the health just as much as food does. Even if somebody eats poorly, if they live a life of a lot of beauty and positivity, tends to do pretty well. And then the third aspect, is actually using our physical bodies.
Yeah.
Exercise, movement, purpose. So our physical bodies, we have one.
Yeah.
I think God made us to use it. So, a lot of people go to the gym and, nothing against that. It's a great plan. But, working with our hands is an important part of that. And, making that with purpose. What's the purpose that we have in our life?
Yes.
So there's the physical purpose aspect and the spiritual, emotional aspect, and then there's the physical building blocks, food aspect. And every one is just as important as the other.
Yeah.
So what you do in nourishing the soul is just as important for overall health. If we can create a positive environment, for people to, because what we're thinking on is positive and good things, is just as important as food. And so putting those together, I think is a really awesome idea, because those are both important aspects. And
I wanted to throw this out to you just to see what you think, because I've been thinking about this. I've never been able to bring it up to anyone with the kind of experience and knowledge that you have. There's this idea that kind of in the culture and in civilization, that the working the land, living in, with a genuine, authentic relationship to the land, and how important that is on one hand. And then on the other side, working very closely with, you could say, the word, or, you could say the logos, poetry, and having those two things. And I've been, over the years, I've been thinking about this, thinking that ideally we would have both. But I think we need to at least have one of those two things in a pretty serious way, because what that does to the soul, the lessons, the parables that naturally come to us when you're working the land, it has to be immense. And then cultivating the word, cultivating, like a garden, like a farm, so that the creative act of poetry and creativity and all of those things. And I look at where we are nowadays and I think, wow, as a society, we've gotten farther and farther away from the land, and we've gotten farther and farther away from the beauty of the word and the poetry, right? And so both of those essential parts of our humanity really have taken a big hit. So I don't know what you think about that, if there's anything there.
I agree. It's 100% correct. There's no reason that we have to be so far away from either one of those aspects. The land is here for us to enjoy. And so even folks that didn't have a grandfather that was able to put together, thousands of acres of land to farm for a living, most of us have at least flower pots,
Yeah.
or a backyard of some sort that we can at least raise a few, and get our hands in the dirt. There's a whole school of thought around healing from grounding. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but grounding is actually getting your hands and or your feet or your knees on the dirt, and allowing your body to be rejuvenated from the earth. So when you're down there planting seeds or pulling weeds or whatever that is, that creates a grounding experience. When you're reading the word, whether it's the scripture or poetry of other natures, or even great music, it actually creates almost the opposite of that. Creates almost a flying experience, if you will. You almost get taken to a slightly different dimension in your thought.
Right.
So it's kind of like
properly grounded, right, on one hand, and then also able to transcend, take flight.
Yeah,
I love that.
So
That's beautiful.
There could be something to that as far as really rounding out our having a rounded life. Of living life to the fullest.
Well, and I love that you say that just because a person might not have access to having thousands of acres and a farm, it doesn't stop you from. I think about that the same way with poetry, literature, music, all of those kinds of things. People are very busy. They have responsibilities. They have families. They're working, but you can still have the equivalent of the flower pot. With a book, or reading, Shakespeare, or, just taking a little bit of that beauty in, especially from, timeless works, because it is healing to the soul.
It is. And it's interesting, back in the day, and we still do it on our farm. Most farmers don't anymore, but back in the day when people really worked hard on the farm, the go-to was having a little music in the evening, or reading a good book. One of the two. At the end of a hard day of farming, you'd sit down and pick a little banjo and fiddle or something,
right?
Or you would, maybe if your family wasn't that musical, you'd read,
just read out loud to
the
family.
Some cool books. And that was kind of, in our family, we'd like to do that on a long winter's evening. I mean, we play a little music and mess around with voice harmonies. I mean, that's just, that's our little, our little thing from a farm perspective, farmer's perspective. And so I think we can, even if that's not our focus. There's no way. I mean, I could never, sing professionally or anything like that, or probably in our family, it's not, not necessarily what we're skilled at. But that doesn't mean we can't, sing for ourselves.
because that's life, that's beauty, you know. Yeah, yeah.